Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. This week I thought we'd kind of take a break from wrenching. Well, not really break from wrenching, but let's talk about wrenches. Let's talk about tools. Let's talk about the minimums, the basics, getting started, and then we'll kind of work our way up to more advanced tools and working in budgets. Y'all know we're big budget around here, and I know if you're new to the channel and you just look around, you think there is no budget, but I promise you, every tool in the shop itself, and every machine in the shop has been built on a budget, bought on a budget, and the ones that you don't see are the ones that made these that we do see possible. We buy, we fix them, we sell. We keep the ones that we really want, and we let the others go, and that kind of paves the way for new tools, expanding the shop, getting new machines, and always moving forward. So let's start out with basic hand tools. What does a guy or gal need starting out? What's the minimum you need to really consider yourself, you know, a beginner mechanic? Now, that's a broad statement. Depending on what type of mechanics you're going to go into is going to dictate what kind of tools you need. But there are some tools that are universal across the board. Tools that would apply in just about every profession, every hobby. You'll find a lot of similarities. So with that in mind, let's talk about some of the basic tools that you're going to need to get started. This is just a quick grab around the shop of what I thought would be the minimum. This is just kind of a sampling of what I think the minimum a person would need to get started turning wrenches. And I kind of want to highlight a couple of them. And this is basic. Now, as we move forward through this, maybe we'll do a series of different tools and so forth. And so you'll have a better understanding. Basic hand tools is to get you started. As you progress in your hobby or in your profession, you're going to need specialty tools that are adapted for your occupation or for your task. Every job that has come into my shop throughout my life that has required a specialty tool I would buy the tool, I would keep the tool, and then I would be able to reuse it the next time I need it. That's how I've acquired what I have. And I've replaced things over the years, of course, but I wanted to touch base and talk to you about the longevity of buying a new tool, where to source out tools cheaply, to go for a quality tool versus a inexpensive tool. So that said, the first things nowadays, metric is kind of everything. Even your American-made cars are covered in metric tools. So the first thing right out of the gate, you're going to need a socket set. You're going to need an SAE and a metric socket set, preferably something that goes from quarter all the way up to half-inch drive. You are going to experience bolts and nuts larger than a regular 3/8 is going to cover. So go ahead and try to find a complete socket set. This is not a complete, but this represents a complete socket set because you're going to need it. And so the best place to source tools like that, complete ones, you can go to yard sales, you can go to flea markets. We have a car expo that comes around annually, and actually when I was sourcing out these tools, these two were just happened to be laying there at the top of the drawer, and I paid like $2.50 for a KD USA, which is a fine spine ratchet. It's a good ratchet. It wasn't part of a set, but for that kind of money, you got to buy it. And this is probably one of my favorites. It's a 1950s, I think 58, I think is what it said. I didn't even know this, but do you know that people collect old tools? Like people collect 3-wheelers. I know, it's crazy, right? 1958 Snap-on. You can look up that number and it will tell you the year and model. It still works. I bought it at a yard sale with a bunch of ratchets and extensions and things like that. Inexpensive. Now, when you are buying ratchets especially, because they tend to break, even the good ones, get something with a warranty. Nowadays, Cobalt, Craftsman, there's a couple others, of course, Snap-on, and those brands, they're going to have lifetime warranties. Even buying a busted ratchet for 50 cents, you can take it back to the manufacturer and they'll give you a new one for it. It's a pretty good deal. So when sourcing ratchets, especially, look for a quality ratchet, look for something that has a lifetime warranty on it. The man that I actually bought this from, it was his yard sale. He's no longer with us, but he probably didn't buy it new. And so what I'm trying to tell you is this is the third go around for this ratchet. And even if this one broke, I wouldn't probably turn it in for a new one just because of its age. But my point is, good tools last. So you've got a good, starting out, you've got to have a good ratchet set. Metric is going to be dominantly used. That being said, Harbor Freight to the rescue here. Every one of these is 10 millimeter, and yes, you will lose a bunch of 10 millimeters. But these are, you know, they're different. They're you know, 1/4 inch drive, they're pivot, they're deep well, they're impact. They're, you know, they're just all different ones, but they're all 10 millimeter. So I think that was like $14 for the whole set. Pretty inexpensive. You're gonna lose them. A 10 millimeter, you're not going to have super strength because it's such a small bolt. The bolt will break before you have to worry about that particular tool breaking. So you can get by with some cheap 10 millimeters, and you'll be happy that you did. Crescent wrench, locking pliers. It's an extra pair of hands. It's an extra pair of fingers. Really good. I put crescent wrenches out here just because the easeability. If you've got one wrench in the toolbox of your truck, I hope it's a crescent wrench or a pair of locking pliers. They are going to fit anything just about you run across within reason, but get you out of a jam. All right, PB Blaster, starting fluid. 2 fluids I use in the shop. I have them on automatic drop. They're automatic ship through Amazon. I just use a bunch of them. Carb and choke cleaner. Carburetors, if you're going to work in small engines, is always something you're going to have to battle. So keep a couple of cans in-house. It's also a good diagnosing tool for a leaky intake. You've got an engine running, you can spray a little carb cleaner on it. The RPMs rev up, then you know you got a leak. Starting fluid, it works for that too. So there's a lot of uses for good carb cleaner. PB Blaster is just kind of my rusty bolt lubricant of choice. I like it. It's thick enough. It clings to the bolts as it kind of works its way through. It's good stuff. It's a family tradition in my family. My uncles swear by PB Blaster, and so they passed that on to me. Adjustable pliers. When I was little, I called these dinosaurs. And you can okay, you might not be able to see that, but when I was little, that's what they were called. Channellocks is what I call them, but I know that's a brand name. Some people would call them adjustable pliers. These are Cobalt. They're just a good wrench or a good plier. Nothing really special about this. Hammers. Now, there's going to be a big argument here: a claw hammer versus a ball peen hammer. In an automotive shop, you are not going to find a claw hammer, but they have their place. But a good ball peen hammer, one preferably that doesn't have a broken handle, and then a good whacker. You need a good 2.5, 3, 5 pound hammer for, you know, sometimes you just gotta hit something. And so that's good for that. Basic tools. Some of these you can steal out of the house, you know, maybe. You know, the wife's not around, or, you know, somebody, you can grab a decent pair of scissors, a pair of scissors that you could actually cut vinyl with, paper, cardboard, making a template, anything like that. A good pair of scissors around the shop is always important. Tape measure, really, you know, you can't say enough things about a tape measure. I do. I like a tape measure that has the small measurements on it. It's just easier for me. You know, if you're good with fractions, not such a big deal, but they make them now that already have them. So if you're going to buy one, go ahead and get one that has the most information on it as possible. This is a Milwaukee. It has a magnetic end. It's pretty handy when you're working with metal. You can go out and it'll stick to the other end of your piece of metal, and then you can take your measurement. Little things that you just never even thought you needed, but when you have them, you go, hey, that's a pretty smart idea. And it doesn't cost you any more money. I put my cell phone on this table for a very important reason. This is how you watch my videos, and I appreciate it, every one of y'all that y'all watch, but it's also the wave of the future. You can I run a diagnostic tool through here, through an app that you know, I can plug into an ODB2 port on my vehicle. Looking up service manuals, you know, I'll put the link across the description. Since day one, I've been a big you know, proponent for Oscar Mayer ATV manuals. He's got them all there. They're free to you. There's no reason why you shouldn't download the manual for your machine, keep it with you out in the shop, reference back to it, torque specs, bolt sizes. I mean, it's all there and it's free to use. Your phone, call a friend. I mean, you could just do a lot. One of the bigger things that a lot of people, it's just so easy, people don't think about it, is before you start to tear something apart, take a couple of really good pictures of it. Take pictures of how that belt was ran, that serpentine belt, because you may struggle putting it back on, and that goes from your lawnmower to your car to anything you take apart. If you're going to do an engine rebuild, I highly recommend you take a lot of photos, refer back to them, zoom in on them, and really get the information that you need, probably faster than looking it up in a manual. So I put my phone on the table. It's a basic tool. We all have it in our pocket. Use it for a whole nother reason. Okay, that pretty much takes care of basic tools. Now I kind of want to move a little into different areas, but still relatively basic and inexpensive. Drills and impact ratchets or impact guns. Everybody has them. Everybody makes them. I recommend a Milwaukee or a DEWALT. They're all made pretty much by a couple of different companies, but I'm a DEWALT guy. If you look around my shop, you'll see a lot of yellow. There's a lot of DEWALT products. When you pick a platform nowadays, stick with it, because your batteries should be interchangeable, your chargers should be interchangeable. If you're going to get into like a flashlight, a skill saw, a grinder, a sawzall. I mean, they make everything on batteries now, right? But when you get a platform, stick with it. Don't have a bunch of different manufacturers, and then everything will kind of work across your platform. This is a 24 or 20 volt max. You can run, I've bought batteries at pawn shops before. Actually, I think the one on the charger I got at a pawn shop, it was $19 for the battery. It's a great place to buy batteries, and if it doesn't work, you can take it back. They generally give you a 15-day warranty on something like that, something you wouldn't get at a yard sale. And a battery is one of those things you really don't know until you use it. Taking on and off stubborn bolts, long bolts, using a wire wheel, as you see in this one, in a drill, drilling holes, running extractors, running taps, drills and impacts, lug nuts, the monotonous of just, you know, just hand turning things. Get a set of impact gun and drivers. Wait till Christmas. Black Friday's coming. This is October 2024. A great opportunity to get a good price on both. Don't just get one, get both. They have their purposes. $100, $125. If you do get one used, be sure and test it. And it needs to look good. I wouldn't necessarily tell you to go spend a bunch of money on one as beat up as mine. But this one's probably 5 or 6 years old, this set. Y'all know I use it every day. So I have 3 batteries, 1 charger. There's always one on the charger. As these run down, I just switch them out. All right, so that's basic hand tools. We're getting into a little bit more of electrics or battery operated tools, but going back to hand tools, you are going to experience specialty tools. Now don't run out and buy these until you need them, but we're talking hub pullers or flywheel pullers and clutch pullers and specialty clutch sockets and so forth. And there's not a lot of them, but you don't have to have them, and you don't need them until you have to have them. So if you're going to get into small engines, you will end up getting these eventually. Motion Pro, there's a lot of different companies. Remember guys, you're only going to use this once or twice per machine, maybe. And there's no need to go out and buy the Cadillac of sockets. Get what you need today and kind of move forward. Pocket knife, old school, actually old timer. Just get a pocket knife, guys. Carry it. It's everything. It's a gasket remover. Careful with that one. It's a finger slicer. Careful with that one too. Weak trim wire. A pocket knife. You just gotta have them. It's just one of those things. And here's how I know. When I don't have a pocket knife, I'm always looking for one. And when I have one, I'm always finding a use for it. It's the funniest thing. But the pocket knife is always good to have on your person and in your shop. All right. Now, we're going to switch over to electrical a little bit, because it's going to come up. Working with mechanics, you're going to have, there's kind of 3 different parts or aspects to a machine. Not all machines, but in general, you're going to have your mechanical side of things, you're going to have your electrical side of things, and then somewhere in between you're going to find your fluids, your hydraulic fluid, your brake fluid, your antifreeze, your coolant, you know, all the different types of fluids. Now, I picked up this set, this metal box. It's pretty old. I mean, it's not an antique or anything. You see here, it's got all these little metal compartments. I found that at a yard sale. I think it was $15. No, sorry, they're still on there. $10. So when I bought it, it had a lot of, it was almost full. It had a lot of connectors and butt connectors and just different types of electrical things. Now I've added to it over the years. You know, there's some shrink wrap and, you know, there's a big lug for a battery, and no, it's not completely organized, but it's close. It's a great way to keep connectors and ways to connect things electrically. When I buy new things, I just kind of fill up the little box and I move on. I'm not an organized person, but this is great. When I have an electric problem or repair, I grab this box, I grab these tools, and I'm ready to go. Now these tools specifically, I call these just a pair of wire pliers. That's what they are. They've got a set of cutters on the end. They've got a crimp in the middle. Some people call them crimpers. There's a lot of different ones out there. They got some real fancy ones that strip the wire for you. And yeah, okay, these work, and they've worked for years. Years, guys, years. A good pair of cutters are good. You can get by without these if you've got these. But if you can run across a nice pair of angle cutters or angle wire cutters, they're really good. You see these are actually broken. I cut something I probably shouldn't have, but they still work, and so I still use them. Electrically, you can start getting into heated shrink wrap. A cigarette lighter works really good for that. You can get a heat gun, you know, if you want. Again, starting basic hand tools here. You're going to have electric problems that you're going to have to repair. Along with these, you're going to need wire nuts or maybe a pick tool to maybe take a plug apart and put a plug back together. All right, finishing up with the electrical tools. A couple things you're going to need: a good test light, a cheap test light, any test light. A test light you can do wonders with. Learn how to use a test light. Learn how to use the test light forwards and backwards. And what I mean by that is you can use and check your circuit backwards and check for ground. You can check your circuit forward and test for positive. If you can do that, then the next step from a test light would be a good, decent multimeter or an ohm meter, checking the resistance of electronics like CDIs and coils and pickups and things like that. Can save you a lot of trial and error. You know, being able to test a component is the difference between just somebody swapping components out guessing. Now, sometimes we all have to do that. Sometimes you can't test a CDI. You know, it's real easy to take one from a known machine and stick in there. But if you don't have a CDI, then of the same make and model, then you may have to figure out a way to test it. One thing we haven't talked about yet is screwdrivers. Now, I was not always educated on screwdrivers. Japanese equipment is going to require a JIS screwdriver. That's what this one is, and these are too. You can pick these up. 223 Cycles has a great line of the KTC screwdrivers, and there's 3 different sizes most commonly used in the Phillips design, but they're not called Phillips, they're called JIS. So that's always good. If you want, you can get some others. They've got them different places. This is an inexpensive set, Armor Grip. They're not bad. I've just picked them up the other day. I'm using them. Amazon has them. Flathead screwdrivers. Now this one is a little small. I actually filed it down a little bit, and the reason I did that, it fits a jet, one of those really deep ones. Yes, they make jet tools. I don't have one, but I have a really nice custom screwdriver now. You're going to need 2 dominant sizes. One is going to be your larger size. You're going to find that for like case bolts and things like that. The other one's going to be the more common size. You're going to find that in like handlebar grips and levers and fittings and fairings and plastics and all those different things where screws are used. All right, now let's say you want to step up a little bit from basic, and this is still basic. These are basic hand tools, but if you're going to start doing engine work, and I'm talking top ends and mild rebuilds, there's a couple things you're going to have. You're going to have to measure things better than by eye. So that being said, the first thing you're going to want to do, decent micrometer, and this is strictly decent. And you're going to need a set of bore gauges, just something so you can get a more accurate reference of how large that cylinder is. If you're going to hone your own cylinders, you're going to need a type of hone. Now, I like the Dingleberry. I use it 2-stroke and 4-stroke. Some people say you can't use it on a 2-stroke. I would argue that you can, because I do. So that being said, you can pick these up and they last a really long time. Again, you're only going to use them once per engine probably. So it may sit on your shelf for a long time. So if you've got a buddy or 2 or 3 that want to go in, these are, they do a great job of putting that cross hatching. This is not a bore tool. You are not boring a cylinder. You are putting cross hatching in a cylinder. That's all these will ever do. Anybody that says they use one of these and bored their engine, they're mistaken. This is a honing tool. You will hone the cylinder. You will put a scratch etch on the inside of the cylinder. That's all they are capable of doing. That's all you will do with them. They come in different sizes, depends on different size. Each machine, I have 3 in-house. I'll probably never need another one. I have the 200cc, the 250cc, and the 350cc. So that pretty much fits every machine I'm going to be working on in the near future. If something else comes in, well, then we'll buy that tool when we need it. Finishing up engine work. Now, engine work, you're going to require a decent torque wrench, something that is pretty reliable. Valve core tool, you can get these really cheap. You may even have one laying around. That's good to have. I can't tell you how many flat tires are really just a leaky core. You tighten the core up, replace the core with one that has a better O-ring on it. It's a cheap fix. It's nice to have, and it's one of those tools you can get by without it, but if you have it, you'll be thankful that you did. Most important tool when it comes to diagnosing a non-running engine is a compression tester. They come with different ends. They're interchangeable, so you can, different machines have different size spark plug holes. So these are interchangeable. You do want one. These are not really expensive. You get what you pay for. They do make nicer ones. They make some that are more accurate. When you're looking to make a determination if you're going to rebuild a machine, you don't need to know the exact PSI. And what I mean by that, the difference between 140 and 141 PSI makes no difference if you need to rebuild that engine or not. Either you do or you don't. When you read 40 PSI or 200 PSI, you know what you have to do. So moving forward, a good workspace. I know that's kind of a pie in the sky if you have nothing, but good lighting. When I started out, I worked outside. You're not going to get really any better lighting than working outside. Working outside gives you the best lighting. A good table to work off, something solid, something sturdy. My first workbench was a door, a solid core wooden door, probably from the 60s or 70s, that had 4 legs screwed to it, and a vise. Now, this vise, this is probably my 2nd vise, 3rd vise. I've been through a few vices. I'm kind of hard on them. A good vise is an extra pair of hands. It's an extra helper. It's a friend. It will hold things that you don't want to hold, things that are hot, things that are spinning. A vise is a very handy tool to have in the shop. If you're going to look into having a table, even a wooden table, a good vise on the end of it that will hold something that you can rethread or retap, or maybe something that you're going to cut with a power tool. It's going to get hot. It's much safer to use a vise versus your fingers and trying to cut on it. A vise is a great beginner, just above beginner tool. Don't break the bank buying a vise, but a good vise are great to have around the shop. You can pick them up at yard sales. That's where I picked up this one, and I've got 2 others that I don't even have out in the shop yet. I know, I'm sorry. I'm bragging. That's right, I'm bragging. No, they were just such a good deal. I mean, when you can find a 100-pound vise for like $15, you buy it, if you need it or not. And I gotta be honest with you, this one, I was gonna take it off. I brought my table back in, as y'all can see, and I was gonna take this off. It's got a broken jaw. I know they're replaceable, they're cheap. But I was gonna use that as an excuse to bring in one of my other vices. Vices, like anything else, you want to get as much utility and versatility out of every tool on this table. Every tool on this table probably has more than one function. A vise is the same way. A vise per se, if you can get one that has a swivel head on it, maybe has pipe clamps on the inside of it. My last vise had that. This one does not. This is just a straight in and out. It does pivot, it does swivel. Not all vices do. And it does have this little pad on the back here for an anvil. If you need to flatten out a piece of metal or something, that's great. It's better than beating on the table or on the floor. Put it on this little metal pad here and then have fun with it. I've got two other vices. One is much larger, much more industrial. It was a really cool vise. I've actually made it in a video once before. And I just found one, and it's kind of special. It's made by the Colombian company. And if you know anything about old tools, the company was actually based out of Ohio. And they went out of business in 1919, I believe. And I have an anvil that the same company made. So that same company, same manufacturer, they made tools from really the turn of the century. And I think it's awesome that I'm able to bring those two back together and you know, and use them kind of in tandem the way that they were sold. I know that's kind of dumb. That won't mean anything to half of y'all, but somebody would get that and they'll go, oh, that is kind of neat. I mean, think about it. Tools that are 50 years old or 100 years old, you know, that are still in perfect working order today. And that kind of goes back to why I say buy older tools at a yard sale of a quality brand versus inexpensive tools. I've told you where you can buy cheap tools, and in those instances where it's okay because you're going to break them, you're going to lose them, you might as well not invest too much money into them. Then when you have the opportunity to buy good quality tools, be sure and do that too. I think that covers it. Now there's a lot more tools in this room and tools that you're going to need, and we talk about lift tables and jacks and just, you know, welders and ultrasonic cleaners and wire wheels, and you know, the list goes on and on and on. But I think what I showed you on this table will and I am sure I forgot something that is just super useful. Whatever I forgot that's useful and basic, put it in the comments and I'll add it to my table. But if I needed to go out, if you called me and said, hey, I got a problem, bring some tools, this is what I'd probably bring. And I think we would probably fix most of it. You know, electrical tape, zip ties, there's a lot more. But this would get us started, and I think we'd probably fix anything that we'd need to fix with this right here. So as always, something a little different. I've been wanting to do a tool video. I like tools. Tools allow me to do things that I couldn't normally do. That's kind of how I think about a tool. And I know that's a little probably overcomplicated, but so many times in life, the right tool made the job easy, made the job fun, saved the day, if you will. I'm a real big fan of that. I love being the guy in the room that everybody's going to look to when there's a problem. That's the guy I like to be. That's the guy I want to be. And a tool allows me a lot of times to be that guy. Maybe you're like that too. I'd say most people that work with tools deep down, they like to use their tools to help others and to, you know, to be the guy that saves the day. So as for always, thank y'all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. It's something a little different about tools, and you know, it's not just quite always the same old. But if you like any of the tools or have questions about the tools, you'll find links to these tools down in the descriptions. Put a question in the comment, be happy to answer them best I can. And I'm sure others will chime in as well. Something I've missed, I'm sure there's something really obvious not on this table that I have just overlooked. But put it in the comments and we'll all get a good laugh. As for always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.